Good. So, okay. Welcome everyone. We're gonna get going with chapter 5. We got about halfway through chapter 5 last week. And chapter 5 had a few interesting things, right? Shlomo's attention starts to turn a little bit more outward, right? Not just about what gain does the individual have, but also he started talking about oppression, right? Don't be surprised when you see that the world is full of oppression. Um, be careful with your speech, right? Be careful not to take too many oaths, vain oaths. It's better to not take an oath in the first place than it is to take an oath and not fulfill that oath, right? These are sort of the subjects that Shlomo addresses in the beginning of the chapter. And I think we ended with Pasuk 8. I want to start with Pasuk 9 today, but Pasuk 8 again was this very cryptic sort of Hebrew that sort of says that maybe even the king is to some degree has to submit to the power of the land, in that a harvest, a king only eats when there's a harvest, and if it's a bad harvest the king is affected also, and like the land is one of the main substantive things in this world, that has right, the way Art Scroll translates verse 8 is the advantage of land is supreme, even a king is indebted to the soil. Okay, so I'd like to start with Pasuk Tes, with the 9th verse, and continue from there. Let's grab these notes. Okay. Says Pasuk Tes, Ohev Kesef lo yisba kesef umi ohev behamon lo svua gamze havel. Right, so this one's interesting. In some ways, I think this is already this has become, I don't want to say cliche, but this is like a very known idea at this point. But ultimately, it's an irony, right? Ultimately, this is an irony about wealth, about accumulating wealth. Oev kesef, someone who loves money or loves silver, lo yispa kesef. They'll never be satisfied with money, right? If your goal is money, you're going to want more and more and more. And the nature of acquiring kesef is that you'll just continue to want it. You're never going to be satisfied with it. Umi ohev behamon. And so too, someone who loves abundance, lo svua, will never have enough wheat, right? Chasing after material gains, material possessions, the more you get, the more you're going to want, right? That's an ironic reality of the human condition. Gamze havel, he says, this is also futility. Birvos hatova ravu ochleha. Right? Uma kishron levaleha ki'im reus enov. The more good that increases, or the more goods really that increase, the more items that you have, more people will come to eat them, right? This is very similar again to Pirkei Avos, right? The more flesh, the more worms. That as your resources increase, so too maybe the people who will come and take advantage of that, or even not, even in an innocent way. Like if you're supporting a major household, the reality of it is just that more people are going to be eating from it. And so what gain is there to the owner of all of these things, aside from just seeing the piles of treasure, right? That's nice. Like, look, I see my piles of gold and silver. I enjoy that, but there's not much more that you get out of that at the end of the day, because people are going to be taking from it and you're still never going to be satisfied from it. Thoughts or questions until this point?
Well, no, again, I'm keep beating my same horse, but these are all examples of surplus of something that can be retained beyond normal life, beyond your lot in life. All of these things are examples of how these so-called advantages or prizes are neither. They're not prizes, and they don't provide much at all, and they can't be retained. The biggest thing is they're ephemeral, and they provide neither comfort in this life, nor are they something that you could put on your head for the next life.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not like the pharaohs. We don't put it all in our tombs to take it with us, right? And I don't know which is the bigger insight. I don't know if the bigger insight is you can't take it with you, which is going to get explicit
A
at
little
the
more,
end of this.
even a little more.
Or if the bigger, you pointed out, Ethan, you also don't get satisfaction from it in this life, right? That's what he's saying right now. You don't get satisfaction with it in this life, and you can't take it with you. I don't know which surprises people more. I mean, in our modern age, I guess the bigger chiddush is that you don't even enjoy it in this life. Everybody knows you can't take it with you, but okay, good. Misuko shnasa oved im me'at v'im harbe yoichel. Right, the sleep of a worker is sweet, whether they ate a lot or a little. Right, v'hasava le'oshir einenu maniach lo lishon. We actually, I think we might have gotten here last week, but this is a great pasuk. Right, someone who's working, a true worker, their sleep is going to be sweet whether they've eaten a lot or not. I'm sure everyone's had a day of hard work, and by the end of it you're just exhausted in not a bad way necessarily, but just a very real way, just very exhausted, and it's easy to get to sleep. When I was a kid at camp, I think I brought this example before, when we were talking about harvesting, but like in my summer camp, the last week of summer camp, we would help harvest at this big farm that let us use their facilities and stuff during the summer. And you'd come home from camp on those days and you'd be wiped. And there's nothing quite like that, right? Even if you're a little bit hungry, like it feels good to slip into that sleep. So I like that. Masuka shnas ha'over, ha'oved im me'at v'im harbe. Ve'asava le'ashir, and this is very clever. I think it's true, but it's also very clever. Ve'asava le'ashir einenu maniach lo lishon. Right, all of the possessions and all of the satisfaction and all of the things that a wealthy person has, those things don't let them sleep, right? Because you're always worried about, I have to maintain my profits, or what's my competitor doing, right? I'm always worried about if they're going to outmaneuver me, right? All of these things that you acquire, it brings up more worry that doesn't let you sleep. So now we're gonna shift into a few things that this is interesting, right? Again, we'll have to decide how to translate ra over here, right? Ra usually means evil or bad, but we're gonna talk about, Shlomo's gonna mention a number of things that he evaluates to be evil. So we're in Pasuk Yud Beis. Yesh ra'a chola ra'isi tachas hashamesh. I've seen a really terrible thing under the sun. Osher shomer levalov l'ra'aso. Right? Namely, riches hoarded by their owner to his own misfortune. To his own misfortune. Okay. Ve'avad ha'osher hahu be'inyan ra. Beholid bain ve'ein biado me'uma. And he loses those riches, right? He hasn't been using the riches at all, and then something happens, binyan ra, something bad happens, and he loses everything that he's acquired. And he has children, he has a child, but now he has nothing to give those children, right? Says Shlomo, that's a big evil, right? This is someone who, now this is, when I was first reading it, I was sort of thinking that this is, we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to decide if this is something that like this person bears a lot of responsibility for, or if this is much more haphazard and incidental, right? But a bad situation that Shlomo observes under the heavens is someone who hoards their wealth and then they lose their wealth and then they have nothing to give to their children. Are you folks hearing an echo?
Yeah, is someone speaking off camera?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think okay, now we're all muted. I
Yeah.
think we're good. I think we're good. Thank you. So okay, so that's a very bad thing that can happen. Again, I guess one of the things that I'm chewing on is this person hoarding the wealth? Is Shlomo accusing them of doing an evil thing, like they were foolish for doing that, or is it just more incidental, like sometimes when you don't use it and then something bad happens and then you don't have it, So I'm not sure. That's something to think about, and I'll take an opinion poll on it in a moment. But okay, kasher yotzami beten imo orum yoshuv laleches b'shiba umeuma lo yiso v'amolo sheyolech biyado. So this is really one of the key verses, right? This is, you can't take it with you, right? When a person emerges from their mother's womb, they're naked and will return, um, in the same manner, right? You're born naked, you're gonna die naked. Ume lo yisa v'amolo, and nothing came of nothing came of all of his work that that brought stuff to his hands, right? Artswell says, and he emerged from his mother's womb naked. Will he return as he had come? He can salvage nothing from his labor to take with him. Right. So that's really Shlomo's way of saying you can't take it with you. We'll do two more psukim and then I'll pause for a second. V'gam zo ra'a chola kol umas sheba kain yelech. Right. This too is a terrible evil. Exactly as he came, he must depart. Uma yisron lo sheyamol lo ruach. And what good did it do him to toil for the sake of the wind, right? To toil in this fleeting manner. Gam kol yamav b'cheshech yoichel. So too, in all of his life, all of his days, he'll eat in darkness. V'choas harbe v'chol yavakotzef. And he's greatly grieved and has illness and anger. Okay, thoughts or questions until this point?
I think he's describing a miser. How it really comes
Right.
back on you when you fail to give when you should give, when there's like a either moral or life imperative and you don't, it turns against you.
Okay.
And but not only do you hurt somebody close to you, but you would really invite kind of catastrophe because part of living is to respond to what needs to be responded to. And this kind of failure to give, literally, is something that invites catastrophe.
Okay. The only pushback I'll give on that is that we'll see some other examples that he's going to bring that seem a little less in control of the person, and he doesn't directly say because the guy hoarded it, so he lost it. He doesn't say that outright, but I say that with pushback while also largely agreeing with what you're saying. I think that's very valid, right? Use it or lose it on some level. Like there's nothing to gain by being a miser, and in fact, it might really work out quite the opposite. So I appreciate that. Any other thoughts or opinions on this? Would you say, Ethan, would you go so far as to say that the raw that he's talking about, the badness or the evil, is sort of the actions of this person?
Yeah, I think it's evil to withhold love or
Okay,
care or sustenance or support when someone is in dire need, especially someone close to you. I mean, he does mention his son. So,
sure.
you have a son who wants to go to medical school, and you say, oh, that's a waste of time. You might
Yeah,
have cut off their whole career and their identity as a person. And so, yeah, I think he considers it a grievous
yeah.
thing not to be there when you have to be there.
Nice. Good. Okay, good. So let's finish up the chapter. So we're on verse 17. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Hine asher isi ani tov asher yafe lechol velishtos veliros tova bechol amolo shiamol tachas hashemesh nispar yemei chayav asher nosan lo Elohim kihu chelko. Right. This comes back to one of our what is becoming, I think, one of our main takeaways from the book here. Right. Shlomo just spent a whole bunch of time talking about how life is fleeting and that overworking yourself for the sake of amassing all of this wealth is a bad idea. It doesn't work and it's ineffective. But what joy can we take from this world? Is eating and drinking and taking pride in work, right? This is becoming a theme in the book. I saw ani tov asher yafe lechol. I saw that it's good to eat and to drink and to recognize the joy of all of your labors that a person labors under the sun for all the span of their life, which God gave them, because that is their chelek. That's a person's chelek. That's a person's portion. Again, in later rabbinic literature, chelek is usually referring to the next world, but we see in Kohelet here, chelek is referring to this world, right? Again, there's no eternality except we've started to get into the God realm, which is where eternality is. But even though everything that we're doing is still fleeting, there's still good in the world to take to eat, drink, and to take pride in your work, right? Which again, it's not that literal. We can expand that out to other things as well, right? That which God has blessed us with, if we are able to partake in it in a way that is kosher and healing and good, then that's the best good in this world. That's kind of what we're, on some level, that's what we're here for, on some level. Or at least that's what we derive, that's where we derive benefit and goodness from this world. Gam kol ha'adam asher nosan lo Elohim osher unechasim v'hishlito lechol mimenu v'loseis es chelko v'lismoach ba'amolo zo matas Elohim hi. Right? That gam, right. Furthermore, any person where God gives them wealth and riches and allows such a person to eat from that wealth and riches and to enjoy from his portion and to enjoy from his work, that's a gift from God. Right. This is where I want to say, this is where he's contrasting it a little bit to this evil that he mentions earlier on. Right. The evil that we just saw is a person who amasses all of this wealth, hoards it, and doesn't partake from it. But the opposite of that, seemingly, is the person whom God does grant all of these things to, but this person is able, I'd like to say the person is able to appreciate it, right? The person's able to enjoy it. But again, this might be coming more from God's perspective, right? Is it the human perspective or the God perspective? From the human perspective, I would say that someone who's able to recognize, be thankful, and enjoy what they've been given, that's the best way to live your life. From the God perspective, it's when God gives you these things and guides your life in such a way that you don't lose it before you can enjoy it. That's a big blessing. They're not mutually exclusive, but I'm not sure which lens Kohelet is really looking through. But that's the big gift from God, is if you've been given nice things in this world and you're able to enjoy them, that's one of the biggest blessings. That's one of the biggest blessings. Matas Elohim, it's a gift from God. Ki lo harbe yizkor es yemei chayav. For he shall remember that the days of his life are not long. Ki Elohim ma'ane b'simchas libo, while God provides him with the joy of his heart. Right. I guess there's comfort in the shortness of life when God grants joy and pleasure within those short days. Right. That's a big blessing. Good thoughts or questions on chapter 5.
I'm just gonna say the translation in the Sefaria
please.
is the last line, because God keeps him busy enjoying himself.
Okay. Nice.
So I think thematically this is he keeps repeating in my eyes the main message, which is if you stick to your portion, you will be happy. This is the real blessing, is to celebrate your portion, and all these other things are exterior and external to the portion. They are all the snares of life, whether it's Solomon and his horses and his concubines, or it's the evil miser holding on to his fortune, or any number of these things that are outside of having, what you can really celebrate as, quote, yours. I think it goes right, Perka Avo, and it's who is happy, who was content with his lot.
Sure.
So it literally goes right to.
It uses the
portion.
same exact language. Misamech b'chelko.
Yeah, and it reflects the same worldview.
That's
it's
true.
That if you celebrate what you have, you will be happy. And if you're chasing any number of things, you will essentially miss out. because all the other things are futile and don't provide.
Good. Good.
Well, I just got mom to bed, so I couldn't talk in that whole bunch. But I'm very glad to hear this conclusion about enjoying the wealth that you have, because when you were saying about like pursuing wealth, and I didn't want to be the naysayer of the group, but
Please, anytime you feel compelled, please do.
I've lived in poverty or relative poverty,
Okay.
or at least like I've certainly had much leaner times than I have now.
Sure.
And so like what pleasure do you get from looking at a pile of gold? What pleasure do I get from looking at the number in my bank account? A whole lot, because I
Good.
know
Okay.
what the opposite is.
Nice. Good. That's good. That's good naysaying. That's good pushback, right? We don't have to be poor. There's a lot of challenges that come with being poor, many of which are hard to imagine if you haven't grappled with them yourself. The point is not to not have things. The point is to be able to engage with them in a healthy and beneficial way. And there's nothing really better than doing that, I think, says Shlomo. So good. I appreciate that, Kressel. Thank you.
Honestly, the whole tradition teaches that having success and having wealth is a legitimate pursuit in life, but it comes with very, very intense obligations. Having inherently in Judaism means you must give, and it's inseparable. The whole notion of tzedek and tzedakah is that you're sharing what is only partially yours. And I think that's a profound point of it. I think Kohelet is trying to caution you against, some version of just wanton greed and hoarding, etc. But it certainly doesn't celebrate poverty. It certainly says pursue the good. And the good eating and drinking is big in this book. It certainly doesn't it doesn't really have an ascetic element in it. It really says live your life.
This reminds me of something else that I unfortunately I don't remember who said it, but I remember hearing it. If you get $1 million, you get a $2 million Yetzer Hara.
Okay.
True.
Good.
I
Stay
always say
calm.
when somebody's getting a lot of money that everybody has problems. It's just like another way of having problems.
Yeah, I had a Rebbe who said you should never daven to be rich. You should always just daven to have what you need. And I think that's good. And what you need can be more than just, we're not talking about simple subsistence, right? I think we want to, how do we say it these days? You want to be more than just, you want to do more than just live. You want to thrive as well. That's important. That's a real thing. But again, that doesn't require millions and millions and millions in most people's cases. But good. We've got 3 minutes left. Let's start the sixth parak. Let's just see this other version of the big evil that Shlomo is talking about, and then we'll hold for the week. So it says, Shlomo, chapter 6, verse Aleph, Nachamol, Yesh Ra Asher Ra'isi Tachas Hashemesh, right? There's another evil that I've witnessed under the sun, Virabohi ala Adam, and it's prevalent among mankind. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that translation. Virabohi ala Adam, or it's a lot for a person. Ish asher yitain loho Elohim osher nechasim vichavod. Right? Here's a person that God has given wealth and property and honor, right? Esteem. Ve'einenu choser lenavsho mikol asher yisave, and they're not lacking for anything that they could possibly desire. Ve'lo yashlitenu Elohim lechol mimenu ki ish nochri yochlenu ze hevel v'choli rohus. Right? So again, this now seems a little bit more divorced from the actions of the person himself. Maybe not. Maybe you'll tell me not. But this other kind of evil is sort of the exact opposite of what we just saw. Basically, the gift from God is if you've been granted wealth and property and things like that, and you're able to partake from it and enjoy it and utilize it. This is the exact opposite, where it's someone who acquired all these things. God granted wealth and honor. Again, this person, it doesn't say that this person is engaging with it, isn't engaging with it, is hoarding it, is not hoarding it. It's very neutral. And then it says, but God makes it so that this person doesn't get to enjoy it. Rather, it goes to someone else. I don't know if that's a premature death, right? Someone dies before they can enjoy from it, or someone falls on hard times and all of that wealth somehow shifts to someone else, right? The business, I don't know. That's sort of beyond my frame of reference. But like for whatever reason, this person has been allowed to acquire all of this stuff, but then it goes to someone else before they can use it. Shlomo calls that another big evil. Yeah, we'll hold here in the psukim. I just wanted to bring that one in because I think it adds another element to the conversation over here. What do you guys make of this? Because to me, this feels more values neutral and just more about a possible reality.
I spent today at the Anne Frank exhibit at the Center for Jewish History, which I recommend to all of you.
Yeah, was it good?
It was very good, and one of the things, of course, they talked about was like how the Jews were forced to put their money into some bank, basically it was confiscated by the Germans, and like the world that we're living in now, like I just kind of wonder, like the how long before they come after us again? And we're
Yeah.
not, or just come after our wealth. If they're not going to come after our bodies because they have their eyes on other people now.
I was going to say, I don't think we're at the top of the list, but we're always somewhere,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't want to be too myopic.
Right.
There's always a risk that we're somewhere on it.
Some of these verses seem to be doing these little tiny mini portraits of, quote, like people he knows or paradigms of what a life can be like. And this one's kind of mysterious to me, but I think he's talking about either real people or people that he uses as examples. And I think this is a version of heavy is the head that holds the crown. I mean, you can have so much, the more riches, the more troubles, and this person is someone who has so much that it's not enjoyable because it's always laced with tremendous travail and worry and danger even. Who knows? He's definitely seeing it as being something that is life-threatening in a certain sense of the word.
Meaning what it means when it says that God doesn't let him enjoy it, it's because there's too much worry and everything else that comes along with it. And then it's only someone else who's able to come in and just have it and have a good time with it, so to speak. Because the
Look at the lives of kings. I mean, they were always in danger.
Sure.
And in Oriental world, kings were always in danger of being assassinated. Not only assassinated, but the new king would kill their wives and children. They would wipe out the entire line. So yeah, I think there's an element of you can have all these things, but they're literally on a knife blade.
Fair. But also just to speak back to your point again, Kressel, I mean, certainly that's a big evil, right? If we've been granted the opportunity to acquire wealth and things like that, and then you have someone, God forbid, like a Nazi or something, comes in and shifts it. And I hope that we're living in very troubling times, obviously. So hopefully this is not something that's in the cards, but I understand that worry. I definitely get that worry. Okay, good. Mirz Hashem, next week we should be able to get through the 6th parak. It's only 12 verses, so maybe we'll start the 7th as well. Any final thoughts or questions before we hold for the week?
No, good.
Okay. I appreciate it, folks. We'll
Thank you, Rabbi.
Soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you again. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.